Welcome once again to the Cow Report. Of course, I'm your host, Chuck Lee. This is coming to you live from the beautiful downtown L.A. Phillips Memorial Library, soon to be expanded. And with me this evening, of course, this is live. And first of all, I want to say that Fred Stafford couldn't be with us tonight because he's not feeling well. And hopefully Fred will get back in gear and he'll be feeling all right and everything will be just okay with him. We hope you get back on your feet, Fred. I know this. Fred's got a slight touch of pneumonia and he's taking antibiotics, and so we're hoping that he'll get back real soon. So with me tonight, I want to welcome Thor Thorson to the show tonight. Nice to have you here, Thor.
Yeah, Chuck.
Nice to see you again. You were on here once before, what, about 2 years ago or so, wasn't it? You were running.
Yeah, about 2 years ago when I was. I think then I was running for city council.
Okay. So you're familiar to how TV works. Now tonight we're going to be taking calls a little bit later, but we're going to build a foundation for tonight's show. And of course you've all read the stories in the papers. You've seen them on the news. You've seen them on television. You've heard the radio articles, the radio stories. Just about every paper in the Midwest has covered this to some extent about the Dave Plombaum controversy. And we have with us tonight Thor Thorson, who is working on a project. You might have seen over the weekend in the news that Thor is working on a project right now for a recall. And as soon as we get the microphone back in gear here, we'll ask Thor about that. Now, Thor, what is the name of the group that is involved in the recall of Representative Dave Plombaum?
Well, first of all, it's not a recall. A recall cannot be done for 1 year from when he was last elected to office. So a recall could not be done until January of next year. What we're doing, the organization is called the Committee for Responsible Legislators. And what we're doing is we're circulating petitions throughout the 68th Assembly District as if we were doing a real recall. And this is, we're going to be using this to send a message to Representative Plombaum that we, in fact, in the 68th Assembly District, would like him to voluntarily resign from office.
Okay, so how did this come about? I know there's been plenty of news since December when Mr. Plombaum was arrested for the third time, I think, within a year. But how did this come about to where it's evolved into a petition drive? What was the beginnings of it?
The beginnings of it was when, probably when he was released from the center. He's from Marshfield, where he was being treated. And from then it's been working on since then. We first met in Stanley. There's a group of people from Stanley: Cadott, Boyd, Halley, Lafayette, and Eau Claire. And it is a bipartisan group. Matter of fact, one of the people who came up from traveled with me from Eau Claire to Stanley is a Democrat.
So it's just not Republicans that are holding a grudge just because.
No, the election was over in November.
All right.
And now this is a different matter.
Okay, now let's go into some of your background. Now you were kind of new to politics just when I think we had you on. Well, you were running for city council, but before that, I think a long time ago you ran for school board, or not too long ago. Yeah. Maybe what, about 4 years ago?
About 4 years ago, I ran for the Eau Claire School Board, and I was beat the last 5 minutes of the election. And I've run for Eau Claire City Council, Eau Claire County Board, and I was on his opponent's campaign committee during the last two elections.
Now, when you say you lost in the last 5 minutes, what do you mean?
The last 5 minutes is when they came up the final vote. The last.
Oh, you mean on the
tally? Last 5 minutes of the counting the total ballots.
Huh.
And I was beaten by I lost by 86 votes, something like that.
So that was pretty close for your first. That was your first time in politics.
First time ever.
Was that close to around 2,000 to 3,000 votes you got that time?
I don't remember.
I remember it was quite a few votes, but it was that was awful close.
Yeah, it was.
How hard was that to take, just losing by just that few votes?
That's the way politics goes.
Okay, so then you say now that you were in the Wayne Laufenberg campaign this time.
Yes, sir, I was. That has nothing to do with what we're doing right now. As a matter of fact, I'm the only one that was involved, that was involved with the Laufenberg campaign. So,
But this group that started in Stanley, they were already in gear when you hooked up with them then, basically? Or?
well, it was various phone calls back and forth.
So it started in Stanley, and that's Mr. Plumbaum's home territory there, so
Yes, sir.
that doesn't bode well for him if it's starting right there in his home area.
Yeah. Oh.
But why is it 12 months from now? Why 12 months early? What's the reasoning behind that?
Well, this is just to send him a message that we would like him to resign. If he doesn't resign, then next year we will go for a recall. And we're using this to show him that we have enough support up here to go ahead and go with a recall.
Okay, well, as you know, maybe you don't know, but on our program, we always like to ask the guests a question to see if we can stump them, stump the stars. Of course, Fred Stafford has made that famous because he's batting about 99 or 100 getting answers right. And we will be taking calls in a little while, but we always have to ask our guests one of these tough questions about what happened on this date. We like to keep this an educational program also, keep people thinking back. We go back all the way to the 1700s on some of these questions, so some of them aren't very easy, but Fred has done pretty good on it, and a lot of our guests seem to do pretty well. So, we're going to ask you what happened actually on January 24th, and let me see if I can get a tough one here for you. Well, those are all too easy. I'll ask you one from January 23rd, 1968. There was an incident on the off the coast of North Korea, and some Navy men got captured, and it caused an incident. This was right around, well, it was during the Vietnam War, so it was kind of put on the back burner, and I think those men had to stay in North Korean jail for a while, or either that or they held their ground, but they were held captive in their ship. What was the name of that ship?
USS Pueblo. I was serving on active duty in the Navy at that time. I did 20 years in the Navy, so that was all in that period of time.
So that was January 23rd, 1968. What years did you serve in the Navy?
1962 through 1981.
So you're a career man then, just
Sure.
about. Well, my family was all Navy. My father and 3 of my brothers, and 2 of them were in Vietnam, and as a matter of fact, one brother went over there the second time as working for the Department of Defense, doing some training with the South Vietnamese Army. He confided in me, he said, South Vietnam's going to fall. These guys don't want to learn how to do anything. So sure enough, within a few months after, as a matter of fact, he was pulling out of Saigon as the country was falling, and he said he could tell from trying to train them how to work on helicopters that it wasn't going to work, that they didn't care whether the North ran them or the South or the United States or whoever. They were just tired of war. It had been like 30 years, and ever since the 50s they'd been fighting, and here it was getting into the 70s.
Oh, we had the French fighting over there too.
Yeah. So anyway, I think we're going to take a call, Thor, because they're getting backed up on us a little bit here, and
Okay.
so we'll give a call here. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Hello, is this me? Yeah, it is. Okay, I was just going to tell you, Commander Lloyd Bucher and his men were captured in January. They were held for 11 months. They were released. The crew of the spy ship was released in December in time for Christmas for a good propaganda show. Commander Bucher stayed longer. He had some more interrogation to go through. But you were talking about it and said you didn't know for sure how long they were kept. It was 11 months. That's a pretty long time to spend in a communist prison, I would think.
So the whole year of 1968, they were pretty much in...
Oh, yeah. Solitary confinement and, rice breakfast and rice dinner and rice snacks. And
Were you over there during that period, or were you one of...
No, I was not, thank God. I was fortunate enough to have high blood pressure, and I missed the whole shoot 'em up.
Now, they were actually in a North Vietnamese or North Korean prison.
Yes, for 11 months. The men were. Commander Bucher himself was there for a few extra months. I don't remember the exact time on him, but they made a big propaganda show of turning the enlisted men loose in time for Christmas.
Wasn't Ross Perot...
Showed their humanitarianism.
Was Ross Perot involved in getting them back? on that one?
If he was, it was so far behind the scenes that you and I didn't know about it. But it's very likely he might have been. But he was still pretty much working out of Dallas in those days.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, that was quite an incident. Now, we did get the ship back, didn't we?
Oh, yes. They got the ship back without the spy equipment.
Oh.
There were all kinds of radar and sonar and satellite transmitters and receivers and all this kind of stuff that had no earthly. See, where the United States messed up is they don't admit what they were doing.
Uh-huh.
Now, they could have said, yeah, we messed up, we got too close, we were spying on you, we want to see if you've got atomic weapons yet. But no, no, we were just on a training mission. Well, what are they putting trainees in enemy waters for if they were just training in the first place? You know, but the United States played innocent and dumb through the whole thing, and that's why it dragged on so long.
I suppose that
But yes, the communists did keep all the sophisticated intelligence gathering equipment. They gave them back the hull and the keel and the men, and that was about it. A nice fishing boat, I guess, but wasn't much for what it was built for after they got through stripping it.
well, that equipment probably ended up in Russian hands, and
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Probably in the Kremlin Museum today.
yeah.
Okay, well,
Okay.
that's all. I just wanted to fill you in on the length of time that those men had to endure over there.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah, good show.
Okay,
Bye now.
bye. You know, it reminded me when we're watching this this war that's going on in Chechnya right now, the Russians with those penetration bombs.
Yeah.
Doesn't that remind you of back in 1990 when we were over in bombing Iraq? The bombs that went through 5 or 6 levels. Almost seems like somehow the Russians got that technology and now they're using it. As a matter of fact, on the Russian TV, they're showing how the pinpoint bombing is almost exactly what we were doing in Iraq in the 90s. So the Russians have already got that. I don't know if Clinton is actually handing over that technology, lock, stock, and barrel, or they're stealing it through espionage, but they are catching up to us rapidly in those areas. And these little wars like that, Thor, that's kind of a way of showing off their technology and practicing the new technology, working out the bugs in them. So they'll throw that new technology into a little skirmish like that to see how it works out. So anyway, let's get back to what we were talking about here now. We will take some more calls in a second. So, so you ran for school board and you had a real close one there, and that kind of turned you off to politics for a while?
No, it didn't. I've been basically campaigning ever since then, in one way or another.
Okay. So now you worked in the Laufenberg campaign. There was a couple squeakers there. That first one was what? How many votes?
I don't remember the total.
171, I think it was, that first time out. It was a real close race there. And then the second time was a little bit less close, you'd think, with all the problems that Plombaum had, that it would have been even closer. But once you become the incumbent, it's a little harder to beat an incumbent.
Yeah.
So now that Mr. Plombaum had the second campaign under his belt and looking forward to another 2-year term, and boom, right in December, he gets nailed on a drug charge. And so here Wayne Laufenberg, all of a sudden, he's off the back burner and back on the front burner, looking at maybe like they might, all of a sudden he might be back in a race again, or Dave might retire. Or, I mean, aside from what you're doing, though, here Plombaum is pushed back, or Laufenberg's pushed back into the limelight, kind of licking his wounds from the second loss, and all of a sudden he's right back in it here. There could be, at any second or any day there, Plombaum could go before the cameras and say, I throw in the towel. But he hung in there. Mm-hmm. And refused to resign, and that's where we're at today.
Yeah, this Wayne Laufenberg has nothing to do with what's going on right now.
Okay, so it's not like you're some kind of Republican sapper or something going in there. You actually say there's bipartisan.
Matter of fact, there's some of the people who voted for Representative Plombaum are circulating petition papers.
Okay, we'll take another call, and then we'll find out how that petition drive is going. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
I'm calling to find out who you think's going to win the Super Bowl this year.
Who, me or?
Any of you. My opinion is Vikings will take her all at 95, so do you Packer fans? Favre sucks.
Well, I'm a Vikings fan. Thor, where you at?
I don't watch football at all.
Well, see, there you have it.
Well, thank you. Bye-bye.
So there's no argument there, because I guess we're both Vikings fans, but I'm also a Packers fan when they're not playing the Vikings.
Well, then that's not much of a Viking fan.
Yeah, but neither one of them are in the Super Bowl this year. In case,
That's why the Vikings will be there in 95.
oh, really?
Right.
Why is that?
Because they should have made it this year, so next year they'll definitely make it.
Yeah, they both of them had good teams this year, but then Sterling Sharp got hurt, and
Favre just got lucky.
Warren Moon was kind of limping around too, so they both kind of lost their mainstays there at the end, and it kind of hurt them.
Well, thank you.
All right, well, thank you.
Yep, bye-bye.
Okay. Well, we get a little bit of everything on the show, Thor. This is one of the only places in Eau Claire where you can still get the straight dope on everything, you know. I tried to get Plum to come on and give us a straight dope, but he wouldn't come on. But I know he's having a hard time traveling now. I don't know if he got his license back or not. He was working on getting his license back. So he was down to kind of foot power there for a while. I think he had to ride a bus down to the inauguration.
Yep, as far as I know, he was.
Okay, so now this group got formed up in Stanley. How long they been in business now, or how long has it been formed?
We met January 13th.
That was
And
the
then,
official first meeting then.
right, and then we started circulating petitions on Friday.
Okay, and now you did get some media coverage. I saw an article in the St. Paul paper and the Milwaukee Sentinel, and I think there might have been something in one of the Madison papers. So there is some interest in this, what's going on. So when you started on Wednesday, or on Friday, that's just last Friday,
This last Friday.
and then the media jumped on it, and you got a few interviews out of it, right?
Right. I was interviewed on radio on Thursday. I was on TV on Channel 13 on Friday, and then I was interviewed also Friday on either live or on tape, one or the other.
Okay, so there is a little bit of interest out there, what's going on now. So the group met, and so how many people are out right now at this time in the...
There's at least 25 people circulating petitions right now.
Now it's scattered out through the whole
Right.
68th district.
Right. I've had a lot of response starting Friday evening. Well, actually Thursday when it first hit the paper, and then out of the 25 to 30 phone calls, 8 people volunteered to help out. I've had 2 negative phone calls, so I don't get all the good. I get some negative phone calls too.
So what is the exact amount that you're shooting for now? Numbers of...
We're going
Excited.
for 4,000 signatures.
Now, how
That's
did you
above-
come at the 4,000 figure?
Well, the signatures required for a recall would be 25% of the total votes cast for the office of governor in the last election, which was this last November. And then it comes to 25% of the votes cast within the 68th Assembly District. And then that comes up to 3,800 and some. So we're going to go for 4,000. That way we would have a little bit of cushion in case some would be thrown out.
Now, in what kind of time period are you looking at here for getting these?
30 days, because that's the period of time it would be covered in a recall election. Or once an intent for recall is filed, then we would have 30 days thereafter to gather the total number of signatures.
So this is kind of a warm-up for a year from now,
Yep.
the way it looks.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, we'll try another call here and see what we got on the line. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hi, I have 2 questions.
All right.
One of them, where's Fred tonight?
Fred is fighting pneumonia,
Oh,
and he had some other problems earlier, some kind of an infection in the eye, so he's fighting that off. He's feeling better, but the doctor told him to rest for about a week, so we're looking forward for him to come back on the next show.
all right. And my second question is, isn't there something like the state or the city can do about my family calls it Death Corner. It's off the interstate of 93 or of 94 and then 93. Cars crash there all the time. There was an accident there yesterday, and then just down the interstate there was an accident like on Saturday or something. I mean, isn't there something they can do? Put in stoplights? I mean,
Where is that? Right there by the...
it's right by Ken Vance and RCU?
Oh, that intersection right there?
Not that intersection, but up off on the ramp coming off of 94.
Yeah. Why would that be such a danger? Oh, you mean
Well,
kind of on the
because
high?
you can't see cars coming up over, and the cars that are coming off the interstate just zip right across and smash once a week.
Huh.
That's a fairly new off-ramp.
Yeah, that is a new off-ramp. That was built specifically for, pretty much for the people that were starting to put the businesses on the south side of 94 there.
Huh?
That was so the city of Eau Claire could finally jump over the interstate and start developing on the south side. So as soon as that intersection went in, then you seen the Eau Claire County Fairgrounds has moved in out there now. You got Ken Vance, you got Jim Carter. So that's actually going to get busier, that bridge there.
I mean, isn't there anything I can do? Maybe put in stoplights, or I mean, there's a crash there once a month, and it's awful.
Yeah, well, that's a good. That would be a something that you should. Well, we have legislators. You've got three. You've got 2 senators and 3 state representatives from this area. So you have Rod Moen. You've got Dave Zine, Rob Krybeck, Dave Plombaum, and who's the
Wilder.
and Mike Wilder. Mike Wilder. You got those 5 that you could write letters to or call if you got access to a blue book,
All right.
and write letters to them and show and tell them your concerns about that it is a hazard area there, and have them look at doing a study in there and about putting up a stoplight or a stop sign. There is stop signs there, I'm sure, but maybe about looking at putting some kind of stoplights in that area.
All right. Thank
And-
you, and best wishes to Fred.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
And maybe possibly they could also put up lower the speed limit in that area.
Yeah, I think the speed limit's 45, I believe, right there.
Okay, so now we got you out doing petition drive. And as a matter of fact, when I was looking for you tonight to have you come on the show, that's exactly where you were.
I came in about 8 o'clock tonight.
So how does it look? How's the drive looking?
Well, I haven't called all the people that's circulating petitions right now to find out the total number of signatures we have at this time, so I can't give a report on that. But I've been busy up until late Saturday afternoon. I was doing follow-ups on telephone calls that I had received.
Okay, well, while you're here, Thor, we better ask you another question before we take another phone call here.
Okay.
I found one on here that I think I can stump you on. And here it is. January 25th, that's Wednesday of this week. The year was 1971. There was a man out in California that caused some trouble out there back in 1969, and then he got convicted. And to this day, he's still in prison. He should have got fried, but they changed the...
Sounds like Charles Manson.
That's it. That was 1971. He was convicted of the murders of Sharon Tate and 6 others that had happened in 1969. And so here it is 1995, 24 years later, and Mr. Manson's still behind bars, and so are all of his followers that were involved in that. Not only the death of Sharon Tate and 6 others, but there was, from the book I read, Helter Skelter, and beyond that, there's something like 25 bodies laying around that are attributed to the Manson family.
One of his followers had made an attempt on President Ford's life, Lynette Squeaky Fromm.
Yep. Matter of fact, I think she had a chance to get out of prison, and she said no, she wanted to stay as long as Charlie and the rest of them were in there. She was going to stay in there. So that's what happened on this date, or on Wednesday of 1971. As a matter of fact, didn't President Nixon say something during that trial? And Manson held up a newspaper that says Nixon says Manson's guilty, and they tried to get a mistrial out of it.
I think so.
And it didn't work. Okay, go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Say, I was calling about this fellow Plumbaum. I noticed that he went into treatment, and I thought it was going to be for at least 28 days.
And the next thing I know, he's out of treatment. And over in Stanley, he gets inducted into office or installed, and then he's down in Madison. Now, I've known a number of people who have gone to treatment for alcoholism and or drug addiction, and some of them didn't get it the first time. Matter of fact, some didn't get it 10 or 20 times. So Mr. Plumbon has a problem there. He's got a problem he's got to lick, and at the same time he's got to be an active legislator, which is he's got 2 strikes there. I want to commend the man that you have there, Mr. Thorson, who's heading up a battle to get signatures there to request his resignation. So keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Say there, caller, since I got you on the air there, we might as well stump the stars while we got you on there. That voice sounds familiar.
This is not Stump the Stars. This is not Stumpy.
Okay, on this date in 1961, January 25th, there was a president that conducted the first televised presidential press conference. Fred, who was it?
61?
Yep,
JFK?
that's right, you got it. And ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to Fred, the Truth Stafford. You know, Fred, some of your fans were calling up asking where you're at tonight.
Well, I got I got pneumonia, and I gotta lick this thing. So I'm out of the activity for a while.
Yeah? Well, you might as well just stay on the phone for a while. Maybe you got a question that you'd like to ask.
I said enough.
What exactly was your question then for Thor?
Well, I agreed that Mr. Plumbon should clean up his act, and one of the best ways that he could do it would be to resign and lick his problem, and then when he's got it under control, really got it under control, come back.
Now, you're not just saying that because you're a Republican, are you, Fred?
No, I'm saying it because it's true, and I've listened to people who've been in treatment as many as 17 times, and it was the final time that they got it. And boy, that's a tough one to lick. And if you live with an alcoholic, you'll realize it after a while.
17 times?
17 times. Yeah.
What happened the 18th? Did it finally stick?
No, they got it the 17th time.
Finally worked, huh?
Finally worked.
Well, you know, Fred, somebody that young, it's a good time to throw in the towel and call it quits with those drugs.
Right, and the best way to do it is where you can spend your time on that problem alone. In other words, you don't have the distraction of trying to be an active legislator.
Uh-huh. Well, you know, Fred, when I worked in a detox, we'd see men, mostly men, a few women, but mostly men in their 50s and 60s that had been in those detox centers 400, 500, 600 times.
Yeah, I know it happens. It's a funny thing that they don't realize what it's doing to them, and somebody has to get through to them. And if they work the 12 steps, and you're probably familiar with them, they turn their life and the will over to the care of God as He knows them, and then they're on their way. If they don't do that, they keep falling off the wagon.
Yeah, well, how's Betty tonight?
Well, she's hollering back here.
Why don't you put her on? Maybe she's got a question for Thor tonight.
Do you have a question you want to ask, Betty?
No, this time they're doing a good job.
Hey, she was wondering what all those colors there that were flashing on the screen. Psychedelic stuff.
Well, that's just to show that you can.
I thought that it was show what happens to an alcoholic when he's riding high.
There's some flying high right there.
Yeah.
But no, that's just to show that.
You have a good night now.
Okay, Fred. Now you take care of yourself there, because we need you back on the show here. People are calling, wanting to know where you're at.
Okay.
I can just hold them off so long here. People wanting your autograph and everything else.
Yeah. Bye now.
All right. Thanks for calling. Okay, now you officially started your survey on Friday.
Right.
So you got 30 days from Friday. So that puts it to what date then? Did you figure out what was 30 days from now?
We're going to be cutting off about February 17th. And then the following week, I will be going down to Madison to present them to Representative Plumbaum.
Like, whereabouts are you going to do this? Have you already set up?
I haven't set up a place yet.
So you just go to his office and?
No, I'm going to be going via Representative Prosser, the Speaker of the Assembly, Representative Kanicki, the Minority Leader, and Representative Jensen, the Majority Leader. They will see the petitions before Representative Plumbaum.
Okay. So you are shooting for 4,000. What if you get
Yes, sir.
5,000?
Great.
Now,
That will show even more reason for him to resign now. These petitions are non-binding. He can do with them whatever he wants.
what was the total vote in that race last time, you remember?
I don't remember the total votes. It was around 15,000 in both Chippewa County and Eau Claire County.
Oh, for the presidential, or
No,
governor?
For state representative. And it's probably around the same for governor.
So if you come up with 4,000 or 5,000 there without any trouble, it would probably say that Mr. Plumbaum could be in some trouble.
Yes.
Now, so a year from now, so this ends in the middle of February, and then you're going to hand them over right then, and so then at the end of February, the ball's kind of going to be dropped. There won't be nothing to do, and you'll have about 9, 10 months before you can do an actual recall. So what happens between February and the January of 1996?
More preparation.
So is that the period of time when people start thinking about running, or that they keep the pressure on Mr. Plumbaum to resign, or what happens? Is it just,
I don't know what's going to happen during that time. I wish I had a crystal ball, but I don't, so I can't tell.
well, as you know as well as I do, in politics, people have very short memories,
That's true. But,
and
I hope they remember.
11 months from now, actually almost 12, because the actual recall then can start on what date?
Well, there's the 30 days, and then when all the petitions are turned over, then they have a period of time to do a rebuttal on all the signatures, and then there's another period of time where to rebut the rebuttal. So it might be a few months before the actual recall election would take place. But we have to have the total number of signatures for a recall election to be held.
If it's 1 year from the date of inauguration, that would be around January 3rd.
January 1996.
Of 96,
Right.
January 3rd, 4th, somewhere in that area. So then you'd have 30 days from there, so you're into February of 96. And then you're into the election year again for the 96, for Plumbaum's 96 reelection.
Yes, sir.
So you'd have maybe as little as 9 or 10 months left before he would actually be coming up for, and even less time than that for a primary.
Now, if there's a primary, see, he would automatically be put on the ballot. He doesn't have to fill out any nomination papers at all
In the recall.
in the recall.
So he's the only one on the recall ballot,
Well,
right?
there could be a primary. There might be another Democrat run against him. There could be there's a couple
Well,
Republicans.
even in the recall election, there could be people run against
I'm
him.
sure they could.
Oh. I thought it was just up or down, either he's
No, this-
recalled or not.
It would be a regular recall election, similar to a special election.
Yeah, so then it'd be wide open again. You might have 5 Republicans and 5 Democrats jump
Could
in
be.
there. Could be a free-for-all. Well, let's take a call here and see what the callers think. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, Chuck, how you doing?
All right, how are you tonight?
Well, I just have a couple things I want to ask you about. Like,
All right.
what are those colors behind you and stuff
What colors?
that are like on the screen behind you?
Oh, that's my sweatshirt.
No, there's like colors flashing on the screen behind you.
Oh, we're in the studio here.
Oh, okay. Next, I'd just like to
That
say
might
hi to
be-
Millie. What's up, Millie?
That might be something Roy Rogers Hoff is manipulating in the other room there.
Yeah, how's Roy Rogers doing?
He's doing pretty good for a name like that, you know. He takes a lot of ribbing. But you know how he got that name, don't you?
No, tell me.
Well, his father was in the hospital there watching the Hopalong Cassidy movie, and he said, and all of a sudden it came to him that he's going to name his son Roy Rogers.
Okay, that's nice. Next, I'd just like to say, get well, Fred. We miss you. And Thor, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. How about yourself?
Okay, I'd just like to, send my hope out to you that, I'd like to see Dave get out of office too, and I'm really not a big fan of him. So good luck on that.
Thank you very much.
Uh-huh.
And I just have to say one more thing. I want to fuck Thor.
Well, see, we have these children that get on the line there, and we've been mentioning about the Eau Claire educational system and how Fred and I have been discussing over several years now about how we use Regis as an example, how for about $2,000 Regis puts out a pretty good product. The students come out of there well behaved. A lot of them end up being doctors, lawyers, nurses, and it's all done for about $2,000. The public school system, each student now per student, it's well over $6,000. And we get students coming out that can't read or write or can't speak English without swearing. And so we keep wondering how that is. A little old Regis there, 2,000, can put out a better product than the public school that is spending 3 times the amount of money on pretty much the same product, the high school student. It's just, it boggles our minds every time we hear somebody comes on and acts juvenile, especially when they're 17, 18, maybe as much as 20 years old, and they can't come on and without swearing or something. So it's unfortunate. But that's life here in the old USA and beautiful downtown L.E. Phillips Memorial Library and taco stand. So go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
I'd like to ask Mr. Thorson something.
Okay.
He's the religious right-wing Republican.
I don't know. Wait a minute.
Is that what it is?
Well, let's ask him here before you ask him your question.
Well, I'm asking, who does he represent? He doesn't represent the Republicans. Is it the religious right wing?
Is represent Republicans on what we're doing right now?
Yes.
I'm not representing anyone other than myself and a few other people that are very upset with the conduct that Representative Blombaum has done in the past year. His apparent contempt of the law and apparent contempt of those who are entrusted to enforce the law. And he is not setting a good example as a state representative. He is undermining the efforts of parents and civic organizations to encourage our youth to stay away from drugs, alcohol, and to obey the law. And we feel that he has lost his effectiveness and trust within the 68th Assembly District.
Now, this is the decision of a few people, correct?
No.
Is that Mr. Laufenberg and yourself?
Mr. Laufenberg has nothing to do with this whatsoever. It is myself and another group of people that I never had even met before we met on Friday, January 13th.
Okay, could I ask? Okay, you're setting an example, basically, is what you're going after this man for a drug abuse, which is like alcohol abuse or whatever else abuse. I think that it's kind of should be said that he is without sin should pass the first stone. And I think all of us, and I as a Republican, from the time I was 16 years old and could not vote, but did babysitting for the Republican Party, I think that what you've done for us as a Republican Party is a shame. I'm ashamed.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but I'm not representing any party whatsoever because this is a bipartisan effort.
As I said, he who is without sin, let him cast the first stone.
Well, we want to thank you very much, caller. Sounds like she had a small cold there or something, but you know, whenever you do anything like this, Thor, you're going to take heat from supposedly your friends and your enemies. And
I've already taken heat already.
now, as a matter of fact, Thor, you used to be on the executive committee of the Republican Party, but you stepped away from that several months ago, right?
Yes, I stepped away from that back in June of last year because The meetings are held on Saturdays, and because of my work situation right now, I cannot attend any meetings because I'm working.
So you're not in...
Therefore, why belong to an organization that you can't attend any meetings?
In other words, though, you're not in the, what would I say, the decision-making of the
No.
Eau Claire County Republican Party, so, and you say you do have Democrats and Republicans, independents
Yes, I do.
in this movement for this recall.
There have
So-
been people who voted for Representative Blombaum both times that are circulating petitions.
Huh. Well, that's unusual. What are you doing there? Hello? Hello? Hello, we're on the air. You're on the air.
You talking to me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just talking to your director there, Chuck. I guess I felt pretty bad that you were saying some bad things about public school children, because there's a lot of good public school children, and there's a lot of, when you mentioned something about the Regis children coming out and that they were exemplary or whatever, there's a lot of those children in our public schools who are religious children too, you know, and that are fine children in our community and grow up to be doctors and teachers and lawyers and, you know, and TV show hosts or whatever, you know, wherever you came from too. But I'm just saying that I don't think it's fair for you to put all the bad kids into public school, because there are some children who maybe have some poor word skills and are graduates of Regis too, you know. So
I'm sure of that.
yeah. So I guess I'm just thinking that maybe that was kind of hard for you to, you know, control yourself with that young man talking the way he did to Thor. But it is, I don't think it's really right that you know, lump all the kids in the public schools and say that they're all bad, because there's a lot
Well,
of...
I usually say there's another fine example of where our public school system is breaking down, and we get quite a few calls like that. So
Well-
those kind of examples speak for themselves.
Yeah, say, Chuck?
Yes.
Yeah, do you know that that isn't a parochial school or a Regis student calling? Do you know for sure that it isn't?
No, I don't.
Oh. And then too, I want you to think too, and you and your people might be able to get some of this out, that it's not so much our public school system in the state or in the country. It's really with our families that have fallen down, and I think we need to blame our legislators. The legislators over the last 30 years have been attacking our public schools by putting in pyramids of administrators to make the cost so exorbitant. It isn't our school board. It's not us here in the community. It's the legislators who are sabotaging. They're sabotaging our public school system, and they have an agenda. It's planned, and you know, they've given us mandates for our schools. They've taken authority away from the parents. They've taken authority away from our teachers, from our children's teachers. They've taken authority away from our principals. Our local school officials don't even have control over our local schools anymore. But that's the way they want it. They are deliberately doing this to the public schools.
What do you think? Why do you think they're doing that?
I think that they want the voucher system. They want monies for the private and parochial schools, and this is their way of doing it. And by making the public so upset with the cost for education, but at the same time they want to build that cost up so that all these monies will just go to the child, and then the child will take it to, well, especially like in Milwaukee, where there's the low income and there's the 5 Catholic schools that closed just this last year. They want to open their Kanicki, or what, I may be saying his name wrong. He was...
Yeah, Walter Kanicki.
Yeah, he was going to throw his hat in the ring against Thompson. But he stood on the steps of St. Leo's Church down there, and I have the article, and he said, we don't want busing anymore. We want our neighborhood schools back. And they've been working. And you've seen what Thompson did just this last week.
Well, that's surprising that Kanicki would say he doesn't want busing.
Yeah, he doesn't want busing anymore. And he wants their neighborhood schools and the children.
Well, there has been a lot of manipulation from the outside, but on the other hand, right here in Eau Claire, we have a superintendent that's getting ready to break the $100,000 barrier in income, and we've got some of these schools have 2, 3, 4 principals and vice principals stacked up on top of each other.
Oh, when you and I were kids, the schools never had that.
I went to a school that had 1,500 kids. They had a principal and assistant, and that was it, and they did just fine.
Jay and Chuck, I agree with you 110%. And the problem is, it's not us, it's not me as a parent, it's not our local school board, it is the legislators in Madison who have made for these mandates, and they have brought on so much bureaucracy, but it's been deliberate. I'd like to visit with you sometime, so I'll probably call you at your home and hope that we can have a nice visit.
Well, I am definitely against the national school board they're trying to set up. I'm against the national.
What do you think about Thompson wanting to take over get rid of Benson and set up his own people and then himself, and they'll be the clearinghouse for the education, whatever, commission or whatever he's going to call it. That's even taking more local control away from us.
Well, I think there should be, I think the school money should stay in the community so that we can have good public schools and private schools.
Right.
I don't think all the money should be just handed over lock, stock, and barrel to the public schools. I think there is a role for private schools, and we've seen that with Regis. They limp along, and they put out, what I was trying to get at was for only $2,000, Regis puts out a pretty good product.
Yeah, but Chuck, then I have to kind of clarify that. I know that Regis only takes the students they want. I know of certain children who have had trouble in high school. Some problems, and the parents want to take them out of the public school and move them over to Regis, and Regis didn't take the children, wouldn't take the boy. And then not only that, but they don't serve the number of children, the types of children that the public schools, that the legislators have mandated to take. When I was a young girl in school, we didn't have, our schools were real strict, but now the legislators have taken the authority away from the principals. They've taken the authority away from parents. Us parents don't even have control of the kids anymore. The kids are the kings and queens. And we have to get back to the 40s and 50s and make these legislators undo the laws that they have enacted.
Well, it's not only Thompson, but it goes all the way from the national level all the way down to the state level.
That's right.
They need to get out of the way. I don't hold the teachers at that much fault, but I don't. There are a lot of administrators, a lot of politicians.
Legislators who have legislated the bureaucracy mandating us to have all these administrators. I'm saying what you're saying, but it's not our local school board who's done this to us. It isn't that the principals want additional principals. It's the legislators who have legislated all this, and then they leave us hanging with all this.
Well, write to those legislators.
I am going to.
In Madison and say no more unfunded mandates for the local school systems.
Right.
And get out of the hair and let the local school systems have their schools back.
That's right. That's exactly what we need.
Most people are demanding that local control of the schools again. Look how much of the budget is forced on the local schools by the state.
And now where they've taken the 2/3, I don't quite understand all the numbers. My husband understands more of that. But they've taken the 2/3. You understand that, I would expect. But that just means less local control for us again.
Well, it's just a matter of figuring out how to get back control, wrestle it out of the hands of the.
I hope all your people and everyone. I don't listen to you routinely. I admit that, but I just happened to flip through the channels and heard you saying. I heard this young man talking to Mr. Thorson, and I didn't appreciate what he said at all.
Well, that happens from time to time. We try and cut them off before they get the final words out. And as soon as we get the caller ID, and they'll be getting a knock on the door from the local police for a little visit to the courthouse. So
he sounded like he was a nice person until right there at the end, But
yeah,
give him a few more years; he'll grow up. But the thing is, I don't want you saying that it's from the public school children because there's a lot of wonderful public school children.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for calling in.
You're welcome.
Okay, goodbye. Now, what were you saying, Thor?
I don't remember.
So we're into 1996. There's going to be probably a wide open slugfest there. Everybody and their brother will jump in, and there could be a possibility Plumbaum wouldn't run in a recall. He might just say, no, I don't know what the fine points of the law are then, but
he's automatically on the ballot.
Yeah, because he's the focus of all the.
Because he is the elected representative. Also, since the recall law has been enacted, there has never been a state representative recalled from office in the state of Wisconsin.
So it's an uphill battle.
Yep.
Especially you're fighting time too, you know, because 10, 11, 12 months from now, people tend to forget.
Yep.
In politics, people have very poor memories.
Yeah, I know that well.
Look at Clinton, how many times he's been rescued from the dead. They've revived him, resuscitated him, propped him up, put some rouge on his face, and he's doing better than Lennon. Go ahead, go ahead, caller, you're on the air. Hello? We got a, hello?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got the old common man here.
Oh yeah, Common, how you doing?
Oh, not bad.
So what's up tonight?
Well, a little of everything.
You got a question for Thor?
Oh, I might have a little bit there. First, I got to blast that lady who thinks the Vikings are going to win next year's Super Bowl. And another, again, off of that subject. Look for a team in green instead. Anyway, all I can say is right now I am definitely supporting what your guest there is doing, Mr. Thorson. I'm one of these who, let's face it, in my book, Plombon never should have been elected in the first place.
Yeah.
And we're finding out, you can say what you want about Clinton, but he's almost starting to look good next to Plombon. And as everybody knows, I've got not much good to say about Bill Clinton.
Plombon running for president?
I don't know. The thing of it is, the thing about it, you think how Clinton got in and everything too, but I'll tell you something. Plombon, he's just a sad case.
Well, anyway, what's your question for Thor tonight?
Well, I guess the main thing, like I say, I'm supporting what he's doing there, and as far as the questions part of it goes here, I guess I can say is I can't help. I wish I could. I'm not in the same district. Otherwise, you could add my name to the signature list. But
can somebody from outside the district help in the petition drive, or do they have to be in the district also?
The signers all have to be within the 68th Assembly District. Matter of fact, I had a phone call from Jim Falls, one from the Birchwood area, or excuse me, Holcomb area, and another one from Sand Creek, wanting to sign a petition. They said they can get 200 to 300 signatures in a heartbeat. I said, well, I'm sorry, they wouldn't be valid. Even though the petitions aren't valid, but still we're going as if we were doing a regular recall.
So now the petitioner, the one that's going around door to door, they have to be in the district too.
Right now, if we were doing a recall, yes, they would have to be in the district. But so since this is not, as far as I know, this is the first time it's ever been done. Mm-hmm. So there's not any set rules on what we're doing, other than ones that we set ourselves as far as who can sign.
I hope that answers your question, Common. That was Common Man. He has a show on public access here.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times.
An award-winning show. Okay, we'll go to another call here. In a minute, we want to get your phone number now in case people want to pick up petitions, and you can tell them when they do call you, then you can find out where they live and all that, so make sure they're in the district. Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, Charlie, I hear the young lady talking about the kids in the Catholic school and the Protestant school, and I guess we should be kind of glad that we got the Catholic schools. I'm not Catholic, but just think what it costs those people that are taxpayers the same as you or I are to keep their kids going over there to school and still have to pay for 3 and 4 principals in our schools.
Yeah, a lot of people are averaging between $1,500 and $2,000 real estate tax, and a good hunk of that goes to the public school system, and then on top of that, they're scraping together $2,000 to send their children to the private school. So they are making quite a sacrifice to make sure that their children get an education that they consider to be better than the public school.
Well, you see they have different functions throughout the year over there to make a few extra bucks, and that's good that they do that, because if they close down over there, they're going to have to build more than 1 or 2 more new schools here.
Yeah.
They'll all have to go, and if they leave the swimming pools out, it might cut the cost too in some of these schools.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So there is pros and cons of it, but hopefully the whole You know, eventually hopefully there would be some kind of a system set up where you'll have that choice, and they call it vouchers, school choice, where it will create local competition for excellence.
Well, I don't think you can blame all of the high school kids in either Regis or the schools. Some of those college kids aren't too innocent either down there. I think that by some of those voices I've heard some of them call in, and
Yeah.
they say they have to be a little bit older than 17 and 18 years old.
You know, I ran into quite a few high school kids that say they watch the show and they like Fred and they like the show. So I'm not saying all high school kids, whether it's public or private or college kids, are bad, but we are. When you go to a store and you give somebody a $50 bill and they've got to get the manager to make change because they can't count that high, you know there's problems in the public school system.
Well, years ago, the mother used to holler out the back door to the kids and say supper, and they'd sit around the table and say, what do we got to eat? Now she goes to the door and hollers supper, and they all jump in the station wagon and fight all the way to where they're going to eat.
Yeah, and then when they get there, they can't make change.
There you go. Well, have a good one.
All right, thanks. Okay, Thor, now you were going to tell everybody maybe there's more than one number or more than one contact person. You might, off the top of your head, do you have some numbers you want to give out of where people can get a hold of you if they want to get, either they want to ball you out for doing what you're doing or they want to get on board and help you?
I'm the spokesperson for the committee. Even though I told them all the baggage they carry, and they still wanted me to be the spokesperson. Also, I'm the chairman of the committee. Also, I can be reached at 833-0690 or 833-1676.
All right. And is there? Well, it really wouldn't matter because nobody can see this in Stanley at night. But, and Elk Mound's out of the school district, out of the district, so. So those were the two basic numbers in. And there's a number on the screen for anybody that would like to get a hold of Thor and either voice support or you probably get a few crank calls now you put your name up there, Thor.
I had a couple.
Go ahead, caller, you're on the air.
Yeah, I just want to say I think it's good Mr. Thorson's doing what he believes in, and I wish him all the luck. I am a registered Republican, but I voted for Dave Plombaum, and the reason that I did is I'm so turned off, you know, when I went and listened to Wayne Laufenberg speak a couple of times, and, you know, to me, you know, I just think they needed to get someone different, you know, on the Republican ticket, because I think a lot of other Republicans that I know were turned off with Wayne Laufenberg. No disrespect to him, but apparently he didn't appeal to, you know, a lot of even Republicans in his district. And I think if they would have had a different candidate, I know Dickinson ran, and, you know, he didn't win, but, you know, I still think they needed a different person to run.
What did you, what turned you off? Because I have heard that statement mentioned from time to time about Mr. Laufenberg. What was the turnoff?
Well, I just don't think, you know, he related to, like, the reality. I know in his different positions that he's had, you know, I don't call him someone that's worked in the real world. I mean, he was an educator, is an educator now, and I just don't think, you know, he, you know, related to the people of his district very well. And I went and listened to him talk about 4 or 5 different times, and I didn't even vote for him. To me, you know, I wish, you know, I've always voted Republican too, but the guy just didn't do anything for me. And no disrespect towards him, but I just think they needed someone else. I think if they, you know, would have had someone else. In fact, I even had Dave Plombaum stop by my house when he was running, and he thought that someone else would have ran against him better than what Laufenberg did. I'm serious. He told me that.
Well, the state Republican Party threw a lot of money into that race too, so it was.
Yeah.
So you have to give it to Plombaum. He, you know, he had the money behind him, and he got the votes. So.
The thing is, I think if someone else, you know, would have ran against him, you know, even though only one person did, and Dickinson got into the race kind of late himself, you know, I just think that, you know, the Republicans would have captured that seat, and I wish they would have, because I'm still in that district, and, you know, like I said, though, I voted for Plombaum. So I just wanted to say, like I said, you know, I think Mr. Thorson, he's doing what he thinks is right, and I think that's great. I respect that, and, you know, I enjoy your show, but as far as, if anything does happen out of this, I hope to God that, the Republicans decide to get someone different, because I think for sure they can get that seat back.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
All right, thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Well, Thor, it's that time of night. I've been your host, Chuck Lee. I want to thank Thor Thorson for being on. What's that number again, real quick, Thor? We got about 5 seconds.
833-0690 or 833-1676.
This has been the Cow Report. We'll see you next Monday. Actually, we'll see you the first Monday in February. So have a nice time, and we'll see you again on the next show. Good evening.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave? And that's a way I can't lose.
The story of the Splue Urtaff Show. The Splue Urtaff Show began in 1993. When Splue Urtaff, Benson Gardner, and a host of others joined forces to create a comedy team here on Eau Claire's public access station. They drew their comedic ideas from the world around them. From its inception, the show was aided by such experienced talk show hosts as Beans, who gave them exposure and told them the ropes.
In the beginning, many people confused Beans and Splue because of their remarkable similarities.
In their first episode, the funny characters included the raucous Red Disaster and Lobster Fiend. Alas, these brilliant caricatures were never to return. From that point forward, the Splue Urtaff Show went gradually downhill. There are many theories for this. One of them is that lighter rivalries erupted. Also, from the beginning, the show seemed unusually prone to dying or disappearing co-hosts. Or was it a meteor which came from outer space and threw up a cloud of dust, making it difficult for the Splue Urtaff team to survive? Although no one is sure why the Splue Urtaff Show's demise occurred, it is clear that it has never been quite as funny lately as it was at the beginning. One thing which is still funny and which they still have not changed are the opening credits.